Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. We'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have a very serious show for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ. Let's get into today's topic. So yesterday we reacted to some comments that Mark Cuban made in defense of Steve Ballmer. I want to quickly read what he said. He says, I am Team Ballmer. I'm on Team Ballmer. As much as I wish that they circumvented the salary cap, first, Steve isn't that dumb. If he tried to feed Kawhi Leonard money, knowing what is at stake for him personally and his team, do you think he would have let the company go bankrupt, knowing all creditors would be visible to the world? They got scammed by aspiration, along with many others, crimes for which they pleaded guilty last week. Scammers do scammy things. They did a $300 million sponsorship deal with the Clippers in 2021. That's a huge deal. The better the team does, the more valuable the sponsorship value the sponsorship has. It actually makes perfect sense that if they stole money from investors and want the Clippers to succeed, why not give the stolen money to keep their best player? It is sad that Pablo Torre didn't take time to find out how these scammers pull off their scam. The idea that the default is Ballmer is a bad guy is going to backfire on him. And then not too long ago, he also said this on Twitter in response to the sit down that him and Pablo Torre had that he posted on Twitter. Cuban said the following: Pablo, come on, you only pushed your side in the promos. Nothing you said made your point. You took lots of information provided by scammers who negotiated with someone not connected with Ballmer and then took them at face value. Just to be clear, still Team Ballmer. So that's what he had to say. So I woke up this morning and apparently Steve Ballmer actually went out there to discuss this issue during a sit down that he had with Ramona Shelburne on ESPN. And I saw bits and pieces of it on Instagram. So when I was able to actually watch the full video, I'm like, okay, this is something that we actually need to talk about, because this is one of the people that's being accused of doing dirty dealings. So we want to play the sound for you guys here, and I want you guys to listen to what Ballmer has to say. But before we get into his comments, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, Game Time. One of the things I love the most is making unforgettable memories with family and friends. And one of the things I hate the most is overpaying for tickets only to find out that there was a better deal out there. That's one of the reasons I started using Game Time. Game Time is the easy go-to app for last-minute tickets to sports, concert, and theater events across 60+ states in the US and Canada. Game Time saves me time, money, and stress by curating only the best deals, so I'm not wasting a whole bunch of time scrolling through overpriced tickets. Game Time Picks is my favorite tool. It highlights the best value seats instantly. No more guesswork, no more wasting time. For example, I'm really looking forward to watching some of these NBA Summer League games. Here's what I like to do. I choose between the cheapest deal, the great deal, or the amazing deal. Once you select the ticket you want, you can use their panoramic seat view to ensure you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and use redeem code CLNS for $20 off. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to play what Ballmer had to say to Ramona Shelburne. I want you guys to listen to it carefully, and then want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to Steve Ballmer here.
You guys said that these allegations are provably false. So how do you prove that?
Well, if you start and think, let's pick up from the point about what the rules are. You say, okay, we know what the rules are. Was there an exception made in terms of our relationship with aspiration? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is a company that I got to know, frankly, through them approaching us about a sponsorship deal. My family and I were super keen to do work to stem climate change. We think that's an important thing. I was in the process of even changing the design of Intuit Dome so that we could be carbon neutral. And then we meet this company that focuses in on an aspect of carbon neutrality. To me, it seemed like a match, kind of made in heaven, if you will. And then they offered us an unbelievable sum of money, $330 million. That by itself, one of the biggest sponsorship deals ever done. And it wasn't naming rights. We had turned them down on the naming rights deal because we liked Intuit, blah, 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 blah. But they offered even more money. So we had a fantastic deal with a company that fit with stuff we care about personally. And because I was enthusiastic, I read their business plan. Remember, they defrauded me. They defrauded many other investors much bigger than me. But I read the business plan and said, hey, this makes sense to support them, to support us. We made an investment in the company. So all fine. I had no control over this company. That is important, actually, under the salary cap rules. I owned less than 3% of the company. There were investors who put in a lot more money than I did. I had no board seat. I had no control. Heck, it was a fraudulent company. It's possible nobody had any control. And now you look back and say, could I believe anything they said? Could their employees have been believing anything they said? I don't know. But at the time, it was an exciting deal for us to go do. Now, we had already signed our deal with Kawhi Leonard. We signed that in August of 21. It was a 4-year deal, 4th year at his option. It was the most that we could pay him. That was the most we could do under the rules, if you will. I've been excited about that, even though we knew Kawhi had to rehab a year from a torn ACL. So, kind of okay, this is going to work. This is really going to work, and it did. All done. I remember where I was. We're very excited. That would have been August. In September, we got the deal done for sponsorship and investment. We announced that. And at that time, we hadn't even introduced, Aspiration hadn't asked, or we hadn't introduced for sure, Kawhi to Aspiration. We were done. They were done. We were done with Kawhi. We were done with Aspiration. The deals were all locked and loaded. Then they did request to be introduced to Kawhi under the rules. We can introduce our sponsors to our athletes. We just can't be involved. We made an introduction. That was in early November, well past when all of this happens. We had a chance recently to go through all of our relations with Aspiration. This is where you get to kind of how you prove this stuff. We, as part of our cooperation with the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission, we had produced text, emails. We'd already gone through all this stuff because it was part of document production in their investigations. And we even found the email that makes the first introduction. It was early November. I won't remember the exact date. So where could any of this circumvention have happened? It didn't. It couldn't have. The introduction got made, and then they were off to the races on their own. We weren't involved. I eventually learned that they had reached a deal. I have no idea what the deal was.
So, but you see how this looks to the average fan, right? You're invested in the company. It's $50 million as your investment. You're part of the biggest raise that they have as part of the whole building of that company. Then your star player gets a contract for $28 million. He's not required to do anything as part of that contract. He doesn't actually do anything to promote their company. And he signs an extension with you guys right in and around the same time. Like you can see it looks like what it looks like.
Let's talk to the fan. We signed that deal with Kawhi before any of this, before Kawhi even knows these people. We've signed our deal. That's high integrity. We made our deal with Aspiration. Literally, I had no control over the company. Literally, even when I invested, I think there was somebody who put in 6 times as much money as I did. No control. And that's okay. The average fan should understand that. And they went off and made a deal. I don't know what the deal is. I know what the reports are with the speculation. I don't know what the deal is or was. And frankly, I can't even tell you whether it's this much different, that much different, or not different at all from some of the other endorsement contracts that athletes do. In terms of amount, I don't know. I actually don't know the amounts of most endorsement deals. But when you look at Forbes magazine and they talk about the highest paid athletes, many of those top athletes, as Kawhi was a top athlete, is a top athlete, you read those things and they say they make up more off endorsements than they do their, very large salaries.
Fantastic. So you heard what he had to say. After listening to that sound, and I listened to it a few times, I came to the conclusion that Ballmer is saying, this has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with me. What he is also saying is that all of the Clippers dealings with Kawhi Leonard were 100% above board. They were all clean, and we have no issues. We're not involved in this madness. We paid him his contract contractually. I also don't know what happened between them, Kawhi's representation and aspiration. And he said, I don't know. He said, I got scammed out of $50 million. It's a loss that I took. And what people are trying to say is this. They're trying to say Ballmer gave aspiration this money as a pass-through to give Kawhi Leonard that money. They're saying Ballmer and the Clippers wanted to give Kawhi Leonard an additional, first the figure was 28, now we're hearing $28 million. But since they couldn't do that under the salary cap, he then said, okay, I'll invest $50 million in you guys, and then you guys take that money and give it to Kawhi Leonard. All right? But then Cuban is saying, wait a minute. If the goal was to make sure that the sponsorship continued to work, you would want to ensure that Kawhi Leonard is happy. So the money that you stole from all of these people, why didn't you just give it to Kawhi Leonard? So Ballmer's saying, we gave Kawhi Leonard his deal with the Clippers. That's fair and square. Nobody's arguing that. He's also saying, whatever Kawhi and his team signed off with aspiration outside of us, I have no knowledge of it. He said, because I don't even know who these people are because I got scammed by them. Now, Ramona Shelburne is saying, well, wait a minute. Wait a bloody minute. You're a billionaire. You're a very smart business guy. You're one of the 10 richest people in the world. Are you telling me you didn't do your due diligence to ensure that you didn't get scammed by these people? And he's saying that sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. Now, there's an important question we have to ask ourselves, which is this. Do you think Ballmer would be willing to risk his reputation just to keep Kawhi Leonard? This is a question we have to ask. Is he willing to risk his reputation for $50 million just to keep Kawhi Leonard? Is he willing to do that? This is the question. Now, you can come to your own determination on that. Right? And then the next question we have to ask, well, this person, if you're saying that he's willing to do so, does he have any track record of doing something like this before? Then people can point to the thing with I think DeAndre Jordan and all of those different things. You can point to those cases as well. They even brought it up in the Pablo Torre sit down that he had with Mark Cuban. I don't know. But based on what's being reported here, Ballmer is simply saying the following. I don't know what went on between those people over there. I paid Kawhi Leonard his salary, meaning the Clippers. I got scammed out of $50 million. That's all I know. Now, we haven't heard back from Kawhi Leonard's camp yet. And at a certain point, they ought to. And if they're not, they're probably lawyering up or something like that. But in the other video we did, you could see that Kawhi Leonard's names and correspondence between aspiration and the Clippers and all of that was a real thing. The whole thing is a mess. A bloody mess. And I think this story is just getting started. And we're going to be here for every bit of it. You guys let me know what you think about this in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.